Hello and welcome to the Cracking the Physician Code course. Here you'll learn strategies and tactics to help you acquire new physician clients and keep them for life. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner, your host. The goal of today's session is to give you a broad overview of the medical market. In addition, we'll be sketching out the B2D blueprint, the step-by-step system for building the infrastructure of a physician-friendly practice. Building a physician-friendly practice is like building a house. You want to take the right steps in the right order, and that's precisely what you will be learning in this course. Let's begin with the question, what makes the physician niche so attractive? Here are the top 3 reasons. They say the riches are in the niches, and in the medical market, this is quite literally the case. According to the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics, 9 out of 10 of the highest paid occupations are doctors. Second, physicians are loyal. Once you acquire a physician client, you'll have him or her for life. The third major benefit is the ability to build a referral-based practice. Physicians talk with other physicians. I got the name of most of my advisors in the surgeon's lounge. Once you favorably impress one physician, you can expect that word of your services will spread throughout the community. In addition, this is a great time to be entering the physician market. And why is that? Physicians just got a huge financial wake-up call. It takes the form of rising taxes and looming fee cuts while the costs of business continue to rise. In addition, there's an uncertain economic recovery that will be the engine that will drive retirement income. Physicians are also concerned about what's ahead as the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, unrolls. Let me place the Affordable Care Act in a historic context. If you look at the history of healthcare delivery, you can divide it into roughly 4 segments. The first segment is the pre-penicillin era. I met a distant cousin who was born in 1900. He practiced out of his home, married his nurse. Most of his patients paid out of pocket, and when they didn't have money, they would barter for his services. He spoke fondly about the Blues, Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Patients no longer had to worry that a medical illness would bankrupt the family. The truth, though, was that in the pre-penicillin era, the cost of medical care really was not that high. Physicians really couldn't do that much for patients. The generation of my uncles, who were training when JFK was president, saw a very different environment. Instead of practicing out of their homes, they practiced near the hospital. Most of their patients were insured either through Medicare or through the Blues. In fact, insurance became an entitlement in that era. Technology exploded. More and more diseases that were life-threatening, like heart disease and cancer, became treatable. That meant that an acute illness that had a limited cost associated with it became a costly chronic condition. I went to medical school in the 80s and knew that I would follow in the footsteps of the generations before me. I went into private practice, although for me that was a group. I built insurance companies. However, in the 90s there was a fundamental change, and that change is called managed care. The insurance company had a strategy for controlling the costs. They decided that, unlike the past, when doctors sent bills that they paid, they, the insurance company, would tell doctors how much they would get paid. As you might imagine, this caused great unrest in the medical community. Hospitals approached individual physicians in private practice and said, "Look, doctor, you, as a small group, are not going to be able to negotiate a very good compensation rate from the insurance company. Why don't you sell your practice to us? We'll take care of the administrative work, and you can return to what you love to do, which is patient care." Many physicians sold their practices to hospitals and clinic, and by 2000, only about half of physicians had an ownership stake in their practice, down from 80% when I went to medical school in the 80s. The Affordable Care Act is like managed care on steroids. One of my advisors says that he looks for opportunities where there's money in motion, and there will be money in motion. We will see physicians selling practices. It's expected that by the end of 2 or 3 years, only 1 out of 3 physicians will have an ownership stake in the practice. We're seeing physicians interested in new revenue sources. We know that Medicare cuts are just around the corner, and it could be as high as 20 or 30%. As Medicare fee schedules go, so go the fee schedules of the other insurance companies, so physicians could be looking at an across-the-board 30% decrease in their fees while the costs of business continue to rise. Plus, there's a concern about retirement planning. The 40% of practicing physicians age 55 or older are wondering, will the economy recover in time to generate the kind of retirement income that they expected? You might imagine that with all of this opportunity, it would be easy to acquire physician clients. I speak with financial advisors every day, and many say that they tried to enter the medical market, but the barrier to entry was just too high. They tell me things like, I couldn't get past the gatekeeper, or doctors are too busy or too distracted to pay attention to finances, or they'll never leave their brother-in-law who's been managing their money forever. I'd like to offer a different interpretation for why it's so challenging to establish yourself in the medical market. I believe that the core problem is a failure of understanding. It's a failure to understand the customs in the world of medicine, what drives physicians' behavior, and physicians' relationship with money. So here's what you need to know to be a high performer in the medical market. First, physicians answer a call to medical service. They're trained to put patients first. They're drawn to the alleviation of pain and suffering, and their legacy is important. Physicians and their families make tremendous sacrifices in order for physicians to answer this call to service. Physicians engage in a lengthy training process, including 4 years of undergraduate work, 4 years of medical school, 3 to 5 years of residency, and then 1 to 3 years of fellowship training on top of that. That means that most physicians are ready to start their first real jobs in their mid to late 30s. You'll find that the very same qualities that you want in your own personal physician make it challenging to acquire that same physician as a client. If your father needs an angioplasty, you want that cardiologist being 100% there. However, if you want to acquire a new cardiology prospect, this same focus is a liability. The high performers in the medical market also understand that the single most influential person in a physician's life is another physician. The very best marketing tool that you have is a physician saying nice things about you. It would be great if you could have testimonials on your website. Unfortunately, your industry makes that impossible, so we'll be talking about ways of getting around that limitation. And finally, despite the fact that we've just been talking about how physicians are different than other people, in many ways they're exactly the same as any other person. They want to go to bed at night thinking that they've made a positive difference. Oprah said that she's interviewed tens of thousands of people. And when it comes down to it, everyone wants the same thing. They want to know, do you hear me? Do you see me? Does what I think matter to you? Physicians tend to be lonely people. You will be one of a handful of people that physicians trust with their intimate secrets. Here's the biggest surprise for financial advisors entering the medical market. For physicians, money is the ultimate taboo topic. Let's face it, there are certain topics that are just hard to talk about, and I call them the 5 embarrassing P's: peeing, pooping, procreating, primping, and paying. Of all of those topics, physicians feel relatively comfortable talking about your bowel function or your sexuality. However, when it comes to money, it's a different topic. So let's talk about the financial lives of physicians. What makes it so hard for doctors to talk about money? Well, the first reason is the culture of medicine. In the United States government, we have a separation of church and state. In the practice of medicine, we have a separation between the care a patient gets and the patient's ability to pay. In order to maintain that ethic, physicians simply don't talk about money. When I ordered medical tests or surgical procedures, I often didn't know how much it cost. It often reminded me of an experience in France where I ordered from a menu with no prices. No wonder healthcare costs soared out of control. Reason number 2 is physicians' low financial literacy. Physicians have to work hard to understand how to deliver the best patient care. Financial literacy takes a back seat. Many physicians just assume that they're smart, so they should be able to figure out their finances, fully unaware of how much they don't know. On some level, physicians are all aware of their financial vulnerability. They're seen as the rich doctors, and many people pitch things to them. They deal with this by simply not engaging in conversations with money with people they don't know. They see financial relationships as predatory, and they experience themselves as the prey. Well, then how do physicians manage their finances? They use one of three strategies. The first is benign neglect. They just figure that there's going to be enough money, they don't need to pay close attention to it. The second is the do-it-yourselfer. They might get tips from colleagues, they might go to the white coat investor and try to do it themselves. Some do it well, others not so well. The third strategy is to delegate. Some physicians choose well, others choose poorly. A colleague of mine had her entire retirement embezzled by her office manager. What kind of results does this offer? Here's a report on U.S. physicians' financial preparedness, sponsored by the AMA Insurance Company. Only 6% of physicians considered themselves ahead of schedule in retired preparedness. Nearly half felt that they were behind. And of the 6% who'd considered themselves ahead of schedule, the key difference appears to be based in a deeper knowledge of the level of personal finance issue rather than age or gender. Here are some of the top financial concerns. Will they have enough to retire? Are they saving enough to send their kids to college and maybe to medical school? What separates the high performers, the people who have a profitable practice, from the hobbyists who dabble in doctors? Here's the biggest secret. If you want to conduct business with physicians, conduct yourself as one. You already know that people do business with people they know, like, and trust, and now neuroscience explains why. Our brains are wired with a special cell called a mirror neuron. We build rapport by mirroring others. So the statement, "I like you," really means I'm like you. I see part of myself reflected in you. The truth is that the job that you do mirrors the job that physicians do. In fact, a physician manages physical health in much the same way that you manage fiscal health. In both cases, the stakes are high and emotions run high. You're managing risk in the face of an uncertain future, and there are no answers at the back of the book. The biggest key to success, though, is understanding that physicians manage their wealth as patients manage their health. So let's talk about the difference between the physician role and the patient role. Think about the last time that you went for a doctor visit. Imagine yourself seated on the exam table in the patient gown. Now think about the physician coming in the white coat and sitting down in front of you. Now swap places. You're the one wearing the white coat, and the physician is the one wearing the gown. The difference between the doctor role and the patient role is embedded in the very words that describe the roles. Doctor comes from the word that means teacher. Patient comes from the Latin root meaning suffering, or one who suffers. If this were a ballroom dance, the physician would be the leader, and the patient would be the leady, the follower. As a leader, the physician offers a sense of hope. People in the doctor role and the patient role use different parts of their brain. So let me just give you a quick tour of the brain. There are three functional areas of the brain: the thinking brain, the feeling brain, and the reptile brain. The thinking brain, or cerebral cortex, is what you see in the dark purple. That's the part of our brain that makes us different than other animals that inhabit the planet. Below that, in lavender, is the feeling brain. And below that is the reptile brain that takes care of some basic functions. People in the doctor role are trained and skilled at staying in their thinking brain. The part of the brain that's active in a patient, somebody who has pain or suffering, is the feeling brain, and if the pain gets bad enough, it's the reptile brain. As you look at the way that physicians manage their money, think about the way that you feel when you face a big medical situation. You're probably scared and insecure and feel out of your comfort zone. That's exactly the way that doctors feel about their finances. If you can connect with their emotional brain, You can help them ascend into their thinking brain and make good, informed financial choices. It turns out that for most of your clients, emotion drives motion. Each of us is temperamentally drawn to one of four emotional states: to be in control, to belong or to be part of a group, to feel valued and respected, or to feel smart or right. In general, physicians like being in control. They're feeling distinctly out of control when it comes to their finances right now. If there's a way that you can help physicians take control of their financial destiny, they will value you. A participant said, "Let's see if I've got this right. You're saying that it's hard to get past the vigilant gatekeeper, and even if somehow you could, doctors don't like talking to strangers, and even if you could talk with doctors, they don't like talking about money. How am I possibly supposed to break into the medical market?" Well, this discussion reminded me of a scene from my son's toddler years. He had a love affair with trucks, and one day we came by a huge construction site. He pointed his little chubby toddler fingers in the direction of the dirt pile and said, "Touch trucks." I said, "Sweetie, that would be great, but look, there's a fence all around the construction site, and do you see the sign on the locked gate? It says, 'Do not enter.'" He thought for a moment, and he said, "Take down sign." Gaining access to the medical turf is much like gaining access to this construction site. Over the next couple of weeks, you're going to get a key that unlocks the door. You're about to learn the steps of the B2D blueprint. It's a step-by-step guide for building the infrastructure of a physician-friendly practice. In the remaining time, I'd like to sketch out the B2D blueprint. We'll go through one step in each module, and by the time we're done, you'll have the complete information that you need in order to break into the medical market. Step number 1 is focus. Hobbyists try to be all things to all doctors. You want to join the high performers who have focus. If, God forbid, something happened to a family member, you had a serious illness, maybe pancreatic cancer, you wouldn't want to just go to any doctor. You would want to go to the doctor who sees pancreatic cancer patients every single day. Why is that? It's because when you do high volumes, you get better results. This is something that physicians know and they practice. They will want to work with an advisor who works with doctors like them every single day. In many ways, finding best fit physician clients is a lot like dating. There's an art and a science, and in the end, it's about chemistry and goodness of fit. Step number 2 is conduct research. In many ways, engaging physician prospects and clients is like fishing. The first step is like deciding what kind of fish you want to catch. The next step is learning more about the life cycle of the fish, so you're at the right place at the right time with the right bait that increases your chance of actually catching the fish. Step number 3 is groom for engagement. And when I think of this step, I think of the story of Cinderella. As you recall, she had been invited to the ball, and one day she was in tears. She realized she couldn't go because she didn't have the right dress or the right way of getting there. With a wave of the magic wand, the fairy godmother transformed Cinderella so that she would attract attention at the ball for the right reason. In this step, you'll groom for engagement. You'll enhance your medical magnetism so that you're most able to attract the attention of your best fit physicians. In step number 4, we'll talk about lead generation. This step reminds me of the process of teaching a puppy how to come. This step reminds me of the process of getting a puppy to come. Puppies don't know what the command means. If you approach the puppy thinks it's a game and will move away from you. However, if the puppy learns that you always have a yummy treat there, the puppy will come to you. You have a powerful yummy treat as part of participation in this course. It's an ebook for physicians about how to get more patients. Just as every business, including Apple, wants new customers, so too every single physician wants to get new patients, no matter how busy they are, no matter whether or not they're an employee. Next step is building rapport. It's becoming known and liked and trusted. In the last step, you'll get probably the most important module, which is how to generate referrals. You'll learn how to create a culture of referrals by adopting the right mindset and the right habits and the right language. In addition, you'll learn how to invite people into a conspiracy of service. Remember, physicians like helping people. Then, in the last week, we'll talk about a plan. What do you do on a daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis? What's most important is that you'll do this in a way that works for you. For many years, I've been talking about my prescription for health, which is be who you are, know what you know, and do what you need to do. I believe this is a prescription for a healthy practice too. So we'll modify your plan so that it reflects your passions and your strengths and builds on your successes. Here are 3 action steps. The first exercise is to answer the question, what's your why? In the book, The Power of Full Engagement, the authors point out that we create things twice, the first in our imagination and the second in the outside world. If you have a clear vision about why you're doing this, and you can communicate this with a clear story, you're going to accelerate your growth. How are you going to interact with physicians? And here's an easy way to gain clarity about it. Sit back for a moment and just think about an ideal medical encounter. What's your ideal doctor like? What's the ideal experience like? If you make a list of that, chances are very good that you've just written your job description. Some people think that you simply can't reach doctors, or it costs a fortune, or doctors are difficult to work with and you can't tell them anything. These can be limiting beliefs that will get in the way of your accelerated growth. Once you have clarity about these beliefs, you can challenge it. Does this reflect reality or not? In the next module, we'll take the first step of the B2D blueprint and talk about how you can choose your group of best fit clients. Thank you again for investing in yourself and acquiring these new skills so that you can serve the physicians who serve the community. Let me close with just a couple of tips. The first is I recommend printing out the workbook, punching it, and putting it in a binder. This can be your working document. Second, I invite you to go to the website www.targetingdoctors.com and sign up for the free weekly marketing tips. Third, I invite you to join my LinkedIn Targeting Doctors group and join the conversations there. Thanks again. See you next time.